Hayato was an ordinary broke loser whose only achievement was his extra-large meat. However, his life suddenly changed when he became compatible with the world's strongest weapon and was forced to join a secret group of curvy chicks who don't mind having all that meat. On the way to the restricted island, Hayato dreamt of the day when he was still a child and was attacked by the fire-blasting monsters called savages, along with a little girl. He woke up and wondered who the little girl could be. Just then, he arrived at the academy on the little garden island, which would be his home from then on. On getting inside, he asked a yellow-haired dude named Fritz where the entrance ceremony would take place. At that moment, a girl named Ritia noticed him as Hayato, the guy with the all-time record 100 compatibility score. That instant, the whole school crowded him like he was J. Cole, but Hayato managed to escape the awe-struck students. As he hid from them, another fangirl pounced on him, introducing herself as Anil and telling him she wanted to befriend him. After this, all the students were gathered for the entrance ceremony. Just then, Claire, the captain of the little garden and president of the Big Melons Association, walked in to address the students. Meanwhile, two dumb girls who had been waiting at the airport to pick up Hayato arrived late for the entrance ceremony. With that, Claire immediately reprimanded them and then kicked them out of the academy for coming late. Hayato was moved to speak on their behalf, but Emil quickly stood up, demanding that Claire take back her words and that one thing she hated most was people who abused their powers. Hearing this, Claire made it clear that they were not just students but slayers who would risk their lives to fight the savages. So they were not allowed to make stupid mistakes like tardiness, because a single mistake could cost their life or the lives of their squadron. Emil tried to disapprove, but it was mentioned that Claire was the queen bee of the academy, and her words were final. Emil replied that Claire was no queen because Hayato had a higher 100 compatibility score. Upon hearing this, Claire told her she would be expelled alongside the girls for her insolence, and then asked Hayato if he had any objection to her decision. Hayato stood up, stammered a little like a weirdo, but then summoned the courage to tell her that her decision on the girls was harsh and she needed to chill. With that, Claire challenged him to duel, informing him that if he won, then her decision would be reversed and the girls would not be expelled, which Emil accepted immediately on Hayato's behalf. After the entrance ceremony, Emil took Hayato to the main technologist of the little garden to get his 100. Getting there, they met a girl closer to the floor than a dropped mic named Charlotte and her assistant named Mei Mei, who sniffed Hayato, telling him she loved his disgusting smell. After that, Emil never expected Charlotte to be up to date with the upcoming duel. However, Charlotte explained that she got all the information she needed from Lisa, the computer that controlled everything that happened in the little garden. After which she then handed Hayato his 100 and informed him that the 100 was the only effective weapon against the savage life form. She added that the 100 changed its form based on the characteristics of the user. With that, Hayato collected his 100 and was taken to the training ground, where he trained with Emil and tested his weapon for the first time. As the training commenced, Emil instructed Hayato on how to activate his 100, which he activated on the first trial. Seeing this, Charlotte appeared on the screen, informing Hayato that his 100 was called the Flying Swallow, the perfect Dark Knight kind of weapon. With that, Emil then activated her 100, called the Arm Shroud. Without wasting any time, Emil unleashed her cannons, blasting Hayato, which surprised him, but he managed to block the attack with a barrier that formed when he raised his hand. Seeing this, Emil got excited, so she fired even more, which Hayato evaded with 2 times the speed of Flash. After the training, Emil was confident that taking down Claire would be a piece of cake. Just then, Hayato's beeper rang, and he suddenly remembered that he had to visit his sick sister in the hospital. Emil was shocked that he had a sister in the hospital, and Hayato explained that he agreed to attend the little garden on the condition that his sister would get the best medical care. Later on, Hayato visited his sister, Karen, in the hospital, but she was pissed that he came late, so he kissed her on her forehead and then apologized. She asked about the entrance ceremony, and before Hayato could reply, he cited the softest anime pillows in the history of mankind and immediately had amnesia. Later on that night, Hayato arrived back at the academy, and on entering his room, he found Emil unclad in her full glory. Embarrassed, she hurled luggage at his head, causing him to nosebleed and pass out. Shortly afterward, when he finally regained consciousness, he sighted Emil, who informed him that they were roommates. The day for the duel finally came, so Hayato and Claire positioned in the Coliseum to commence the duel. Just then, Claire activated her 100, and our boy wasted no time to activate his. So with both participants ready, the announcer informed them that the match would end when a combatant was knocked out and then instructed them to commence. However, Claire mentioned that she wouldn't be using her full body armament for the duel, meaning she would not be using her full strength. As the duel commenced, Hayato accidentally activated his full speed, crashing into Claire and landing on her massive plots. The shocked girl tried telling him to get off, but the cultured protagonist took a handful squeeze of her bouncy chesticles, which only infuriated the girl since no one had violated her chest this much. She instantly activated Berserk mode and attacked Hayato with massive missile blasts, even punching him in the guts and casting him to the ground. She then unleashed Alicetarian to finish the guy once and for all. And seeing it, Alice hurriedly warned Hayato to put up an energy barrier, which he did. Hayato then decided to use a technique he had practiced with Emil, but Claire stopped his attack with one hand unfazed and then counterattacked with missile blasts. With that, Hayato channeled all his energy to his sword, leaped into the air, and slashed a powerful mystic energy at Claire. But just when he thought he had won, Claire deflected the attack with her shield and then retaliated with a mighty blast that rocked the Earth's foundation. Somehow, Hayato managed to survive, so Claire transformed her weapon into a buster cannon, aiming it at him. But at that moment, Hayato could feel something else taking over his body as the blast from the buster cannon impacted. Just then, Hayato, now totally consumed by the strange force, appeared from nowhere and attacked Claire with full force, which she narrowly evaded. He then continued with a flurry of attacks at blinding speed, even shocking the crowd. That moment, Claire used her buster cannon again, but realized the guy was on full body armament. So she immediately activated her full body armament, which she announced at the beginning of the duel she wasn't going to use. Without wasting time, she repeatedly attacked Hayato until the barrier he created shattered, and she instantly followed it up with a cataclysmic blast that could obliterate even Thanos himself. With that, our boy returned to his normal boring state, collapsing to the ground. Just then, the crowd fell silent, and Emil, upon seeing this, rushed to check if Hayato was still alive. Emil instantly became furious with Claire because she had initially promised not to use her full body armament. But just then, Charlotte, who was flatter than a freshly ironed shirt, approached, announcing that what Claire had initially said had nothing to do with the rules of the duel, so Claire still won the fight. However, according to Claire, she wouldn't accept the victory because she didn't win the fight fair and square. Hours later, Hayato woke up to realize he was at the hospital with Claire standing over him. He immediately jumped up, asking her if the girls had been expelled, but Claire informed him that she had canceled the order. Claire demanded to know his true identity because what he did in the duel was unbelievable. However, just then, Emil stormed into the room, causing Claire to leave. With that, Emil and Hayato returned to their dorm, where he continued his treatment until he fully recovered. Later on, Emil invited Hayato to the center to have some of the nice foods in the town. While they were at the central, Hayato noticed everyone was staring at him like he was a falling star. As it turned out, everyone in the city had watched his unbelievable performance when he dueled the Queen Bee. Moments later, Hayato received a call from Karen, who also asked him about the duel and informed him that she wanted to see him immediately since it was lunchtime. While they headed to the cafeteria, Karen saw her celebrity crush, Sakura, on the screen. She then revealed that she loved to listen to her music every day in the hospital and would love to attend her upcoming concert. Several hours later, while they had lunch, Claire and her gang approached them. Claire mentioned that she wanted Hayato to help out with the student council, but Emil interrupted, telling Claire that Hayato wasn't obliged to be part of any useless council. Claire's assistant, Chris, jumped in, saying Hayato wasn't obligated but was simply recruited. With that, Claire then informed Hayato that she wanted him to be a part of the selection, a special unit under the student council. As a member, he would execute missions like a full-fledged slayer and combat the savages. Upon hearing this, Emil demanded she join the selections also, but the green-haired, low-budget Billie Eilish objected, saying Emil didn't meet the requirement. This made Emil angry, so she challenged the green-haired girl named Liddy to a duel and immediately activated her 100, ready to commence the fight right there. That instant, Liddy also summoned her 100, ready to go against the girl. So both chicks charged at each other, giving all they got, but stopped when they suddenly heard the blaring sound of an alarm. This was a sign that savages had attacked an island close by, prompting them to stop the duel immediately. As Claire and her girls were about to leave to attend to the emergency, Charlotte interrupted them, suggesting they take Hayato and Emil with them on the mission. With that, they headed to the control room to ascertain the location of the savages. Inside the control room, they met Mei Mei while Chris informed them that they were 3 savages and the 3rd savage was a giant SSS class rank savage. Hearing this, Charlotte instructed Hayato and Emil to stay back because the mission was more dangerous than expected, and they had 0 field experience. After saying that, Charlotte then ordered Liddy and another girl named Erica to head out. However, just as they were about to leave, Hayato begged for them to tag along, revealing that a long time ago, he was attacked by a savage and because of that, he lost part of his memories. So he won't risk the lives of the citizens by just staying put and doing nothing. Charlotte jumped in, saying it was Lisa who had recommended that Hayato and Emil join the mission to reduce the casualties and increase the chances of its success. Following that, the team took a jet over to the mission ground. Liddy then warned Hayato and Emil not to play the hero but to stay put and allow the big girls to handle the mission since they had zero experience with savages. On getting to the mission ground, the jet drop door slid open, and Erica came with a dramatic jump. She immediately aimed for the savage eyes, blasting it, and then out came Claire and Liddy, who attacked afterward and effortlessly shattered the core of the monster. Then it was Emil and Hayato's turn, and in an attempt to deliver a dramatic drop down, they made the cringiest. However, they managed to pull themselves together, with Emil attacking the savage with a laser blaster and Hayato slicing the monster's head. But the body of the savage was impenetrable, so Emil fired an arrow straight to its head, destroying the core at that instant. Meanwhile, Claire and her girls fought against the last savage, so Erica bound the savage with her everlasting chain while Liddy moved to impale the enemy with her mighty spear. But both attacks were useless because the monster counterattacked almost immediately, sending Liddy flying and slamming Erica to the roof of the building. Seeing the girls severely injured, Hayato and Emil moved to help out, but Charlotte instructed them to stand down, saying as the president of the student council, she would take care of the enemy alone. At that moment, she activated her body armament, unleashing her full strength. She and the savage then attacked each other with a powerful energy blast that exploded with the intensity of an atomic bomb. Suddenly, Claire noticed a massive decrease in her energy, which was caused by the duel she had with Hayato earlier on. Just then, the savage opened its mouth to pulverize her, but Hayato intervened, saving her. Erica then alerted them that the intention of the savage was to destroy air traffic control of the airport behind them, which would bring about massive casualties of civilians. At that moment, the savage fired a massive blast toward the airport, but Hayato and Claire intercepted the attack by creating a powerful shield that deflected the blast to the mountain. With that, Emil launched an offense against the savage and even saved Liddy from being cemented with a block of stones. However, she was attacked by the savage shark claws that ripped her suit, exposing the pimple on her chest. Seeing this, Hayato instantly had a flashback of the dream he always had, and then part of his memories flooded his brain, causing him to remember that Emil was the little girl he had saved that night when they were attacked by the savage. With that, Hayato went berserk, activating his full body armament and crushing the savage with ferocious power. But at that moment, Emil realized he had lost himself again and might destroy the entire city in his fury. So she decided to exchange her saliva with his, which returned him back to his senses, after which they both attacked the savage together. Just then, Emil instructed Hayato to channel all his energy into his flying swallow and destroy its core. Hayato did just as he was told, and in that instant, his sword transformed into a powerful weapon that divided the savage into two halves like onions, destroying it completely. After that, Hayato became weak and passed out but was cushioned by Emil. Seeing the two mini-sized melons on Emil's chest, Claire couldn't believe it because Emil had initially faked being a guy before entering the academy. Later on that evening, Hayato demanded an explanation from Emil concerning why she had boobage and why he saw her in his dreams. Emil explained that the day he had saved her, she was affected by a savage virus, making her a variant. Also, when he tried sucking out the blood to save her, he was infected as well, making him a variant. And because Hayato was lucky to survive, his 100 score increased exponentially. She added that she had been searching for Hayato ever since that day of the incident, and whenever the virus activated, he would lose himself and go on a rampage. That was why he needed to learn how to control himself. Just as she stood up to go make tea, Hayato became dizzy again, falling on top of her, cushioning his fall with her heavenly pillows. Just then, Emil realized that he was being affected by the side effects of the virus, so she lip-smooched him to suppress the virus. She informed him that anytime she stuck her tongue deep inside his face hole, she administered an inactive virus inside him to help him fight the effect of the virus. Just as they were about to go for a second round of lips workout, Claire stormed inside the room, asking Emil why she had not moved out of the room since she was a female and should not be cohabiting with a male. But she found them in a saw's position, so in an attempt for Hayato to stand up to explain, this guy ended up tripping and pinning Claire to the ground, lip-locked and hands-on. Days later, the management handling Sakura's concert contacted Claire, informing her that they would need Hayato to be her bodyguard. So after training the Fritz, the yellow-haired dude from earlier, and later that day, Claire summoned Hayato to her office. On getting to the office, he was informed of his mission to be Sakura's bodyguard during her concert on the island. He also learned that 7 savages were detected on the island, and although they had managed to eliminate 3 of them, 4 also were shut down, but one managed to survive. With that, Hayato accepted the mission to be Sakura's bodyguard on the condition that they secured a ticket to the concert for Karen, his sister, who was a big fan of Sakura. Later that day, he visited Karen in the hospital to inform her of his bodyguarding mission and the ticket he had secured for her, which made her very excited. However, she read the tarot and informed him to be careful with women and water. Later, Hayato arrived with Liddy at the airport to pick up Sakura, and after the introductions, they made their way to the hotel. While on their way to the hotel, Hayato wondered why Sakuya had singled him out to be her bodyguard. Sakura, on the other hand, asked Hayato for his favorite song of hers, but he told her he was a depressed soul who didn't listen to music. On entering the hotel room, Hayato was shocked when Sakura showed him a video on her phone of when he went berserk earlier with the savage. After that, she told him she had taken an interest in him as he was the hero who had saved the island. She added that even though he had 0 stees, he still risked her up nonetheless. With that, she dropped the bomb, proposing marriage to him, which nearly gave the dude a heart attack. The short Barbie went on and on about how the diva of the world and the genius slayer as a couple would be the perfect news for the media. However, Hayato pinned her to the glass wall, threatening to add her to his harem just to make her stop. Afterward, Hayato accompanied Sakura to a concert, after which they made a detour to the ongoing construction of the stadium for the concert venue. While there, Sakura was dressed in a skin-tight, thirsty trap outfit, and our guy couldn't help but get enchanted with her pointy cannons. That moment, Sakura suddenly activated her 100-name fairy tale, shocking Hayato, who never believed she was also a slayer. Just then, Charlotte and Mei arrived, and Charlotte informed Hayato that Sakura was a field control type slayer who used her energy to create illusions but was totally unable to create any weapons. Later that same day, Hayato headed to the bathroom for a peaceful bath, but when he entered, he realized Emile was also having a shower, so he tried returning, but she invited him to have a shower plot with her. She then showed him the scar from the incident of that night right in the middle of her plots, telling him that seeing him again made the wound heal. However, the disgusting pair was more fascinated with the curves of her body, which made her embarrassed. Meanwhile, just outside the venue for the concert, a group of yellow-eyed hunters were planning to cause chaos once the concert was over. The following day, while in the hotel room, Sakura had a momentary flashback of her mother, who had always encouraged her to sing because it made people happy. On the other hand, Claire called Hayato to her residence, and on getting there, he found her dressed in her swimsuit. Just then, Claire decided to tease him, but forgot she was not putting on any melon cover, thereby giving the cherry boy a 4K view of her humongous dumpling pair. Seeing this, Liddy immediately rushed to salvage the situation, but made it worse by sitting on Hayato's face while he enjoyed all the juice from her floodgate. After that, Claire revealed to Hayato that they received a message from the headquarters that during the savage attack on the island earlier, a variable stone was stolen from the concert venue. Sakura was supposed to use this variable stone during her performance at the concert. She added that there was a possibility the thief might return, so Hayato would need to keep an eagle view of Sakura during the concert. After this, Hayato met up with Emile for a date. Emile was dressed in her Sunday best, while our boy still wore his school uniform like he was built in it. However, later on, they entered a shopping mall so the idiot could dress properly for a date. With that, Emile went to get a drink, and just then, Hayato received a call from Claire telling him that Sakura was not in her room and there was a possibility that the girl had gone missing. So it was his duty to look for her since he was her bodyguard. Just as the call dropped, someone snatched the phone from his hand. It turned out to be Sakura in disguise, who mentioned that she wanted him to accompany her to a secret location. Hayato tried telling her he was on a date, but the mini-sized doll insisted he followed her. So with no choice, he obliged, leaving Emile to spend the rest of the date with herself. After several hours of driving, they finally arrived at the destination, a beautiful view of the Grand Canyon of the island. There, Sakura thanked Hayato for his heroic feat of saving the island. She also revealed to him that the island was special because she had memories there with her mother. Shortly afterward, while they sat on the rock chilling, Sakura began to hum a sweet melody, which Hayato recognized, telling her his sister also hummed a similar melody. However, Sakura informed him it was impossible because her mother created that song just for her. After saying that, she paused momentarily and then asked Hayato his sister's name. Hayato revealed that his sister's name was Karen, which immediately triggered memories of the past for Sakura. With that, she immediately grabbed Hayato, asking if he was at the shelter downtown on the second savage attack, to which Hayato told her he was. It turned out that on that day at the shelter, Sakura had lost her mother due to the attack, and that was when she found Hayato and his sister Karen, Who she sang for? She added that because of the words of encouragement she received from Hayato and his sister, she was able to develop her singing voice. She went on to tell Hayato the story of her life, of how her father took her away from the shelter, and shortly afterward, she became sick with an unknown virus. Hearing this, Hayato remembered it was the same for Karen. Sakura told him that Souffle, her assistant, was a genetic engineer who operated on her in a bid to cure her, but to no avail. At that moment, she lost her voice and was unable to sing until her father sold her to a research facility that injected kids with the vaccine produced from extracting savage fluids. Although she finally recovered from her illness, many kids died because of the vaccine, and those who survived were injected continuously by the order of the director of the facility. The goal of this evil, greedy director was to turn normal kids into strong slayers for personal gain. This treatment caused the kids to sometimes lose control, becoming violent beasts, but whenever she sang, they immediately became calm and regained their senses. However, as time passed, the kids suddenly started to die one by one until she was the only one left, and was eventually saved by Charlotte. But she became a slayer, her illness was completely cured, and she could sing again but was unable to fight. Hearing this sad tale, Hayato asked if she was a variant, which stunned Sakura because she had never expected him to know about the variants. She suddenly became overjoyed because she was also a variant, and now they had something in common. Since it was getting late, they decided to head back to the hotel by entering a bus. However, on the way, their bus was suddenly attacked by a savage. The savage didn't waste any time blasting the bus with mystic energy, which caused it to tumble. So Hayato attacked the savage while Sakura and the other passengers just watched. However, without his armament, Hayato found it really difficult to defeat the enemy. In that instant, the savage opened his mouth to blast Hayato, and just then, Sakura activated her 100 Fairy Tail, intercepting the attack. With that, Hayato summoned his energy to his sword and then attacked the savage with ferocious strikes, obliterating its core. However, just when they thought it was over, another savage appeared, blasting Sakura, and was ready to erase Hayato from existence. Suddenly, Fritz, Riichia, and Emil arrived at the scene to help out. They immediately attacked the savage together and slashed off both arms. The team managed to destroy the casing of the core, and as Emil launched an arrow to shatter the core, the arrow was parried, surprising her. Just then, they noticed the savage was the regenerating type, and Emil informed them that destroying its core was the only solution. She told them she would cut the arm off again and then asked Hayato to finish it off. With that, Fritz and Riichia covered for her, and Emil cut off the arms of the savage. But as Hayato tried striking the core, he was smacked to the ground like a useless toy. Suddenly, the savage opened its mouth to pulverize Hayato into roasted beef, but Sakura screamed, which shocked Hayato that the savage actually did respond to her voice. However, as he moved to strike the core again, he was attacked by one of the variants named Kroven. While on the ground, another variant named Nekri scanned his sword and made a replica, which she used to attack the savage and finally destroyed its core instantly. But that moment, she began to hit the core repeatedly like a low-budget Harley Quinn, splashing herself with the disgusting juice. Seeing this made Riichia concerned that too much of the savage juice could infect her, making the already crazy girl go even more ballistic. So when the girl licked like it was white cream, Riichia rushed to stop her, but she was attacked by another variant named Ni. Seeing this, Fritz and Emil were forced to fight, and once again, Hayato was attacked by Kroven with his messed up face. That moment, he had a flashback of when Claire told him of the variable stone that had been stolen, which made him believe this group of ugly kids must be responsible for it. On the other hand, Emil was attacked by the psychotic girl. Meanwhile, Kroven continued attacking Hayato, and then suddenly went berserk, which caused Hayato to realize that the crazy kids were actually variants. Emil also noticed that Hayato was completely overwhelmed in the fight, so she transformed her weapon into a missile and then attacked Kroven. Noticing this change in her weapon, Kroven discovered that Emil had a special ability similar to Nekri. So with that, Kroven announced that they had retrieved what they actually came, citing Nekri holding both cores of the savage. After that, he stated that Vitali would be happy for the cores they managed to get, and then they vanished. Later that night, at the academy, Claire mentioned that those variants that attacked them were hunters who were part of an illegal organization and were concerned with removing cores of savages. When Emil asked why the variants needed the core so badly, Charlotte jumped in, explaining that they needed the core badly because it had the same molecular structure as a variable stone. Hearing this, Claire tried to shut her up from divulging too much information to normal students. However, Charlotte continued all the same, telling them the savage core had the same worth as a variable stone monetarily and could also be used as 100. A few days later, while on the beach, Sakura informed Hayato that even though everyone said they enjoyed her songs, she believed the reason they did was because she was not a normal singer but a variant. She added that she felt her singing was nothing but deception and her actual singing wasn't really touching anyone. Hayato tried convincing her that she sang better than Beyonce, but she immediately silenced his useless, disgusting mouth, saying that the savage only responded to her voice because of the virus inside her. However, Hayato cut her off, telling her that back at the shelter home, her songs reached the depth of his heart and even went deeper down there, and then she wasn't even a variant yet. Finally, the day of the much-anticipated concert came, and the crowd were wild like it was a Travis Scott concert. With that, Sakura decided to sing the song her mother created for her, and while she sang, Karen finally realized she was that little girl back at the shelter home. After the concert, Sakura signed Karen an autograph and then kissed Hayato on the cheeks, much to everyone's shock, just to thank him and then wave goodbye to everyone. But the following day, Hayato woke up and found the girl back on his bed. Suddenly, Claire burst into the room, threatening to detain Sakura for illegal trespassing. Emile also stormed in, and 3 chicks immediately began fighting over the hot stuff. Several days later, Claire took the team to a beach resort to relax after the intense fight. There, Hayato got to experience different sizes of melons as all the girls were dressed in their bikinis except for Emile, who was still pretending to be a boy. Suddenly, a helicopter with a Warslan crest engraved on it dropped on the beach, and Juder, the CEO of Warslan, and Claire's brother came out of the helicopter. Seeing him, Claire demanded to know why she was seeing his ugly face. Judah responded by saying he came to see the future soldiers of Warslan in person, especially Hayato, the little garden rising star and the holder of the divine blood. Following that, he took Claire inside the helicopter to take her back to the little garden. Shortly afterward, when they all got back to school, Claire summoned the team to the council room immediately. When they were all gathered, she revealed about the anti-savage cleanup operation and then informed Fritz and Riechia that they were now formally members of the selection, which excited them. Shortly after they were done with the meeting, Juder approached Hayato and asked him to accompany him for a little chat. Juder asked Hayato if he knew the power source of the little garden, and Hayato replied, telling him it was a nuclear fusion reactor. However, Juder told him it was only on paper and then led him to a highly secured room where a young girl was entrapped inside a blue capsule. Juder told him the girl was Lisa, whom Charlotte had told him about earlier, the sleeping beauty and the power source of the little garden. Lisa was the first Slayer and variant created by mankind. She was also Juder's and Claire's little sister. Suddenly, Claire somehow appeared inside the room pointing a gun at both of them, asking Juder why he had brought Hayato inside the room where Lisa was. Juder revealed to her that Hayato had divine blood capable of awakening Lisa. After this, he then asked Hayato to touch the capsule while releasing his energy, which Hayato hesitantly did. As he touched it, the capsule began to react, but according to Juder, his energy wasn't enough at that time to awaken her. After that, Juder mentioned that Vitali wanted Lisa at all costs, and since they both had a past together, he desperately needed to capture her. Moments later, while they were at the elevator, Claire demanded Hayato keep all he had heard and seen a secret from everyone. Finally, the day for the anti-savage cleanup operation came, and while inside the jet, Claire showed them the mountain where over 50 savages were ravaging the area. Soon they arrived at the army base and suddenly, a flat girl with Dracula's face pounced on Emile. It turned out to be Claudia from Emile's country. She addressed Emile as a princess, and Hayato immediately realized that Emile was a princess. Claudia told Emile that she had missed her and all she wanted was for her to return to the kingdom after the mission. But Emile declined, saying she would rather stay with Rizless Hayato than endure staying with her disgusting face. Hearing this, Claudia was pissed to oblivion, so she challenged Hayato to a duel in which the winner of the duel would take Emile. So with that, the duel commenced in a nearby dojo. Claudia laid the rules for the duel, which she stated that they would use normal weapons, and it was a one-round fight where no 100 would be used. After saying that, she immediately attacked Hayato with her rope iron ball, but after a few attacks, Hayato closed his eyes and was able to detect her movement. That moment, he cut the rope, causing the iron ball to smack her crackhead, cementing her defeat. With this, Claudia instantly became furious, running off and promising not to give up on her abominable love of Emil. Later that evening, Hayato and Emil went for a stroll around town, but little did they know that they crossed paths with Kroven, who covered his face with a hoodie, looking even more creepy than ever. The next day, the operation commenced, and the team was divided into groups. Emil wanted to be paired with Hayato, which made Claudia upset, and then she swore to prove she was far superior to Hayato in fighting. Fritz, on the other hand, was in Team F, comprising Liddy and Ritia. Soon, the team entered the designated zone, and Claire instantly defeated a savage effortlessly. Just then, another savage attacked, so Hayato moved to defeat it. But Claudia quickly jumped at the challenge, not wanting to be outshined by the sausage bearer. So she immediately activated her 100, attacking the savage while Emil finished off the attack. However, they had no idea they were watched by the Kroven and his girls. Later that night, the team decided to split themselves into two groups so they could keep watch of the perimeter. Emil chose to be in whatever team Hayato was, but Claire separated them, which made Claudia happy and wished Emil stayed with her instead. But Emil was paired with Charlotte while Hayato and the rest slept inside the tent. Later on, Hayato and Claire took over while the rest retired to their beds, even though Emil still insisted on sticking with Hayato like glue. Seeing that Claire seemed to like Hayato, Claudia devised a plan to get them together in the hope of making Emil angry and jealous so she would return with her to the kingdom. With that, she approached Hayato and Claire, mentioning that she had noticed a large shadow moving towards the lake and suspected it could be a savage. So Hayato and Claire fell for the trap and headed to the lake, but at that moment, Nekri jammed the communication signal around the vicinity. On the other hand, Hayato and Claire coincidentally found a savage around the lake, which Claire immediately blasted with her cannons. However, as she moved to finish it off, she accidentally slipped but was saved by Hayato, who eventually terminated the savage. Meanwhile, back at the camp, Claudia broke the news to Emil that Claire and Hayato were having a nice date at the lake. She added that Hayato was a passionate cheat who could never be trusted, which made Emil super jelly, but no matter what, Emil still refused to return to the kingdom with the flat board. Meanwhile, back at the lake, while Claire cleaned up after the battle with the savage, she revealed to Hayato that her sister Lisa was a product of savage fluids being injected inside a fertilized egg. Hearing this, Hayato initially thought Vitali would be responsible for such a despicable act, but Claire informed him that it was actually their mother, Linnis, who committed the grave sin to her child. Hayato wondered how someone was so cruel to do that to their child, and Claire pointed out that her intention was to use Lisa for war. Lisa had exhibited extremely rare abnormal talent as a slayer, even as a child. One day, she released a forbidden power while saving Claire from a savage attack, and because of this forbidden power, she slept longer than Aurora had for years. Nevertheless, even while she slept, her body had been releasing so much energy that it was used as the sole source of power for the little garden. Claire added that Lisa was Juder's trump card, so she had to become the captain of the little garden to keep an eye on her little sister, and monitor the actions of her brother to prevent Lisa from being used as a tool instead of a human being. Just then, Hayato received an emergency call from the captain of Squad D, who said that they had been attacked by 3 hunters who had wiped out the entire team. However, Hayato could not get a clear message from the call, so Claire revealed that it must have been because the communication had been jammed. Instantly, they saw in the sky the signal flare from Fritz's team, alerting them of danger. With that, Claire ordered Hayato to return to the tent while she checked out what was happening to Fritz's team. It turns out Fritz and his team had been attacked by Kroven and Chicks. Even Liddy had not been spared as Kroven destroyed her ass, casting her to the ground. Just when Kroven was about to eliminate Liddy, and Claire intervened in the nick of time, blasting him with her missile. She then apologized to Liddy for coming late and demanded Kroven reveal everything he knew about Vitali. She assured him that if he and his team surrendered and provided them with all the information about Vitali, she would guarantee his safety. However, Nekri declined and tried attacking Claire, but she was blasted away almost immediately as her power couldn't compare with Claire's while in her full-body armament. Suddenly, rain began to fall, and seeing this, Kroven informed Nekri, and knew that luck was still on their side. That moment, Nekri activated Trason, creating missile discs, and attacked, but Claire realized that her cannons had been attacked instead of her. Claire tried attacking, but she was too slow as Kroven had already read her movement and immediately smacked her, casting her to the ground. With that, Kroven moved to finish her off completely, but just then, Erica's chains bound him. However, Kroven pulled to free himself from the shackles while Nakri and Ni attacked Emil. Emil finally restrained Ni and finally put her to sleep. Seeing this, Nakri attacked Emil furiously, but Emil destroyed her weapon, which caused it to explode. Following that, Nakri tried activating Trace On to copy Emil's weapon. But Emil did not allow her but threatened to pluck out her variant eye so she wouldn't be able to replicate anything again in her miserable life. On the other hand, Kroven continued to attack Hayato at incredible speed, but suddenly, Hayato began to see Kroven's past memories in his subconscious. He saw the suffering they endured when they were little slaves until they met Vitali, who created the variant eye for Nakri. However, noticing Hayato's hesitation to fight back, Kroven asked him his ultimate reason for fighting. Hayato responded by telling him that his reason for fighting was to protect the smiles of everyone he cared about. After saying that, Hayato activated his body armament, attacking Kroven with intense power until he knocked him out. Suddenly, a dragonfly savage appeared in the sky, launching a massive energy blast that took out Squad B. Seeing this menace, Kroven returned the 100 stones they stole to Claire, asking her for permission to attack the dragonfly savage and take its core. Without waiting for her permission, Kroven charged at the savage but realized the monster had an impenetrable wide area barrier. No matter how fierce he attacked, he could not break the barrier, and at that moment, the dragonfly savagely retaliated by blasting him away, but he was caught by Hayato before plastering himself to the ground. With that, Kroven begged Hayato to help him protect Nakri and Ni, as they were more important than his life. Claire asked Nakri to destroy the communication jamming device that was hindering communication. After she did, Claire instructed Charlotte to announce to every Slayer with a long-range ability to attack simultaneously. So just then, they all blasted the savage at the same time, but the energy force still wasn't enough. So Charlotte instructed Hayato to share his variant ability with Claire by lip-clapping her so he could inject the variant virus into her body, which would give her enough blasting power to destroy the savage. With that, Hayato and Claire exchanged mouth fluids, after which she had enough blasting power, and when they attacked again, they could finally shatter the barrier. After which, Hayato finished off the savage by slashing its core, destroying it, and causing the savage to fall into the sea together with him. Seeing this, Emil quickly went into action by diving into the sea to rescue her baby boy. Later on, after the mission, the team returned to the little garden, but Erika was worried about what Juder was planning, while Hayato was receiving treatment. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Vitali realized that Kroven and the girls would not return to her and might have snitched on her. However, she didn't give two shits because she had something sinister planned already. With that, she looked for a new Slayer to complete her plan and found a girl with glasses called Wendy. Days later, Hayato, Emil, and Sakura met with Claire, who informed them that the 3 hunters they captured were cooped up in a special underground facility but refusing to snitch. She also added that the headquarters managed to find Vitali's lab. Unfortunately, the woman had already escaped when they got there, and all important information was erased. She also pointed out that a joint task force of Slayers from other countries would handle the security in the upcoming Garden Festa. Garden Festa was an event that celebrated the launching of the little garden and was open to the general public. In this event, Sakura would be performing and additional cleaning robots would be made available. Several hours later, jets containing Slayers from other countries landed. Just then, Claudia arrived, and Wendy also arrived and was greeted by Freesia and Fritz. Soon after, Hayato arrived at the hospital only to find Sakura wandering, so he decided to trail her. He initially thought she was heading to Karen's room, but soon realized she was headed to another room. However, when he entered the room, he was surprised to see Karen there. As it turned out, Karen would also be performing alongside Sakura at the event. However, Hayato was worried about the physical strain performing would put on her fragile body, but Karen showed him her 100, which stunned him. He had never expected Karen to be able to use the 100, but Charlotte informed him that she showed an affinity to the 100. Using the 100, Karen could jump and fly just like Sakura while performing. The next day, the Garden Festa started, and the little garden was buzzing with people from all over the world. Just then, Hayato went to visit Karen backstage to wish her luck, but suddenly Judar interrupted, wishing Sakura and Karen luck in their performance. After that, Sakura performed for the large crowd, activating her 100 and displaying her impressive stage ability. Meanwhile, at the security entrance to the little garden, Wendy replaced the Slayer guarding the gate, and since Vitali controlled her, Vitali was able to gain entry to the Garden Festa easily. With that, Wendy took her inside the facility and opened a highly guarded door for her, after which Vitali made her sleep. So while others enjoyed Sakura's performance, They didn't know that Vitaly had infiltrated the facility. After Sakura's performance, it was time for Karen's performance, and just then, Karen activated her 100 called the Divine Card, delivering a spectacular performance. On the other hand, Vitaly, still inside the facility, dropped her cigarette and was picked up by an automatic cleaning robot. It took several hours before Claire got information from Slayers that Wendy was unconscious near the staff gate. When found, she had no memories of what happened or why she was even in the little garden. All she repeatedly said was a savage with no core. Meanwhile, outside the facility where people celebrated, a bee-like robot suddenly appeared, so Erika activated her 100 to restrain it. But the robot immediately exploded. At that moment, another robot appeared, so Richia immediately took it down, but there was a series of explosions that rocked various buildings, causing power outages all over the city. At the same time, inside the control room, Claire received a video of the automatic cleaning robot transforming into the bee robot, which stunned her. With that, she ordered shutting down all the automatic cleaning robots and immediately destroying the ones still working. Just then, another video popped up on the screen showing a variable stone found from the debris of the bee robot attack. Seeing this, Claire knew this was a carefully planned attack that could only be executed by Vitaly, to which Charlotte agreed. With that, Claire immediately ordered for the Garden Fest to be put on hold and evacuation should commence immediately. Sakura was communicated to help keep the buzzing crowd calm and not to panic till they were evacuated safely. On the other hand, Erika and Ritia continued to attack the bee robot. Simultaneously, the rest of the Slayers quietly evacuated the civilians. Inside the control station, a bee robot flew, inserting his claw into the switch, infecting the entire system with a virus. Meanwhile, on the roof of the ship, Claudia noticed an incoming aircraft that crashed into the little garden, and out of the burning ship emerged savages with no core. The ship's mechanical defense system immediately activated, firing the savages, but the Slayers realized that conventional weapons were useless against them. Charlotte informed Claire that the savages with no core were called replicants made by Vitaly in the image of humanity's greatest enemies, savages. Just then, they detected an incoming aircraft, so they tried shooting it down, but it crashed on the barrier protecting the civilians where Sakutra was performing. Out of the crashed aircraft emerged numerous replicants, and to make matters even worse, a giant replicant emerged, smashing the barrier with its claw. Back in the control room, the team realized that the barrier strength was reducing drastically, and if something were not done fast, the barrier would be gone. So Claire suggested going against the giant replicant, but Hayato offered to go instead, promising to do everything necessary to save the little garden. At the same time, Krovin and the girls heard some banging on the metal door in the underground facility. As the door slid open, Vitaly entered, asking for their help in her evil plan of attacking the little garden. But Krovin objected since the whole place was flooded with civilians, and his intention was not to harm any innocent person. This infuriated Vitaly, who was forced to use a device that emitted a sound wave that hurt their ears so much. Shortly afterward, Mei arrived to check on Krovin and his team but saw the guards dead, and she was immediately shot by Vitaly. However, she dodged the bullets and delivered a Mortal Kombat kick to her jaw. Just then, as she entered the room, she was shot from behind by Vitaly. And at that moment, she suddenly noticed that Krovin and his team had turned evil again. She tried stopping them, but Krovin blasted her with electricity and then followed Vitaly. A few seconds later, Vitaly and her team destroyed the door leading to Area 9, which alerted Charlotte that they were heading to Sector 11, where Lisa was located. However, just then, she received a call from Juder telling her to leave Vitaly to him, and he would handle her since they used to have a relationship in the past. On the other hand, Nekri fell into the trap of one of the doors while on their way to where Lisa was kept. Seeing that, Vitaly knew Krovin would never abandon her, so she tried using the shockwave device on them again. But before she could, they were saved by Mei, who exchanged shots with her and got shot in the thighs in the process, giving Vitaly the opportunity to escape. When Vitaly finally reached where Lisa was, she was surprised to see Juder already there. It turned out these two idiots used to play Romeo and Juliet, and this whole mission was all about revenge for Juder playing with Vitaly's emotions like she was some worthless side character. On the other hand, Hayato and Emil were attacked by the giant replicant, who emitted a power shockwave that only affected the Slayers, making them weak and unable to fight properly. Simultaneously, Juder tried talking some sense into Vitaly, telling her she was still valuable to him, but the vengeful toxic bitch shot at Lisa, but suddenly realized there was a protective barrier protecting her. but found out that Lisa was already awake because she had somehow reacted to Sakura's songs. With that, Judor told her that he had only used her to accomplish his plan. And in anger, Vitali shot multiple times again, but could never penetrate the barrier. Utilizing the distraction, Judor took advantage of it to shoot Vitali in the guts, eliminating her instantly. Following that, Judor decided to take Lisa back into the capsule, but she told him she needed to do something first. She immediately appeared before Sakura and Karen, telling them to sing, after which she healed Karen's legs. At that moment, Karen and Sakura started to sing, and their song canceled the shockwave effect, making it possible for the Slayers to move again. With that, Hayato activated his full-body armor and defeated the giant replicant, but his entire energy was drained in the process. Everyone thought the giant replicant had been defeated, but suddenly the menace reactivated. The giant replicant then gathered a large amount of energy to its head and was about to blast. But at that moment, Kroven and his team took a major brunt of the hit. As the replicant moved to attack again, Kroven instantly activated his variant, charging at it, but he was electrocuted. Seeing this, Nekri was extremely furious, and just then, the girl unleashed her ultimate Super Saiyan Trace on ability. She duplicated the giant replicant and effortlessly annihilated it. But there came another problem because Nekri had lost control of her senses, becoming a monster, attacking randomly. At that moment, Lisa entered into Hayato's subconscious, informing him of the terrible situation and the urgency to act. She begged him to save the little garden and then clapped his lips. At the same time, Claire was about to blast Nekri while still in her abominable form, but Hayato intervened just in time, stopping her and pointing out that Nekri also needed to be saved. With that, Hayato immediately activated his 100, unleashing his full-body armament, and tried talking some sense to the tied-up consciousness of Nekri inside the monster. But Nekri was consumed by her anger for the Slayers, which made her furious. She continued her attack, even knocking Hayato to the ground, and was about to blast into oblivion, but Emil saved him. However, he still tried talking with her again, but the girl was just too stubborn and continued her rampage. So, with no other choice, Hayato lunged at her, slicing her head, which instantly brought Nekri back to her senses, and she was finally saved. Following this, Emil hugged Hayato while Kroven and his girls came to thank him. On the other hand, while Claire watched this beautiful moment from a high place, she was hugged at the back by Lisa, who thanked her for protecting the little garden. Later that night, while Emil and Hayato were busy playing with their tongues, they were caught red-handed by the rest of the team. The gullible team never expected that Emil, who they all thought was a boy, was into that sort of religion. However, just then, Claudia, who was pissed at Hayato for enjoying all of Emil's benefits, accidentally mentioned that Emil was a princess. So, with no other option, Emil was forced to admit that she was a girl and the princess of a kingdom. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this.